Ever been listening to your favorite podcast and think, hey, I want to start my own? Then you need Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First, everyone's favorite word, free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome back to the Bibliophile Hour. I am your host / cousin, Erica the Bibliophile, and we are here for day 28 of Read a Book, Record a Podcast. And this next series is a 4-part series, so it's going to carry us to the end of my 31-day challenge for myself. And it is the Rule and Camryn story, a Memphis love story by Miss Beloved. And no, not the Beloved who eats food on YouTube and has her own sauce. It is the author who writes amazing stories. Her books are always happily ever afters. You know, there's drama in the middle, but in the end, the couples always come together, and I love that. She usually writes a lot of short stories that, you know, the people fall in love quickly. And she always warns you at the beginning, you know, this is that type of story, so if you don't like it, you don't have to read it. But I love her. I think after Bianca, it would be Beloved. But anyway, I'm rambling. Let's get into it. What was it about love that made its owners try to force it upon those around them? That's what Camryn is struggling with right now. Her cousin Elle, who recently got engaged, is trying to force love down her throat, plus her fiance's brother. And they're having a small wedding in Vegas. And Camryn, at first she's with it, but then she changes her mind and says, you know, what do I look like going to Vegas with you and Power and his brother? I'm going to be bored and alone. I don't know this man. He's already admitted to being crazy. I'm just going to stay here. And Elle isn't having that. You know, they're like best friends, cousins, sisters, all that. And she's like, you know, I know Rule is a bit outspoken, but he's a sweetheart. I can't get married without you being there. You're not just my cousin. You're my sister, my best friend. Please come. And even though Camryn is like fake putting up a fight, there's no way she would miss her favorite cousin's wedding for anything in the world. Even if it meant dealing with a man she only spoken to on the phone once. And he has already proved to be crazy, possessive, and probably too sexy for his own good. So she has a flashback to when she was out to eat with Elle, and she's telling Elle about her latest date and why she would never see him again. And Elle tells her, you can't get mad at the man because he didn't talk crazy when someone bumped into you. I ain't saying he had to talk crazy to the guy, but I'm just saying, I don't feel like I could trust him with me. I don't feel like I can trust him to be my protector. He didn't even look at the nigga crazy. He just act like he didn't see it. And I get what she's saying. It's just like, you don't want your person to wild out. But it's just like, damn, somebody bumped into me. You ain't gonna say nothing about that. You're just gonna let them bump into me? And Camryn says, that's why I deal with street niggas. Because they have no problem putting a nigga in check, and me too. You know how my attitude is. I can't be with a man that holds back. And Elle says, you know, I don't want you with a street guy anymore. I can't be with no other type. I can't find me a man like Power, one that used to be in the street but is on his good guy swag now. I wouldn't mind that kind. What if I could get you someone like Power? Someone like who? His brother. You mean to tell me this nigga had a brother all of this time and you failed to mention it? Hook a sister up. So Elle laughs and she tells her, you know, he's fine. He kind of looks like Power. They're the same shade of brown. He's tatted with that bad boy edge that you like. I think you'll like him. Get me him, please. So Elle calls Rule on the phone, and he's like, what's up? Everything's okay? And they almost had a thing at one point, but he agreed not to pursue her, and then she got with Power. So she says, yeah, everything is good. Are you single? Am I single? Yeah. You ain't coming at me, are you? That would kill Power. And she's like, man, hell no, I'm well satisfied. I don't want you. I want you for my cousin. Is she pretty? She's my cousin, Rule. What you think? And Camryn says, his name is Rule? That's sexy. And it's like, right? Because you have Power, Rule, dope. And he was like, that was her? Her voice sexy as hell. Let me talk to her. Put me on speaker. So they have a conversation going back and forth. He's like, I hear you checking for me. She's like, I ain't checking for you. I don't even know you. I just wanted to see if you look as good as your brother. So he says, why don't you let me take you out so you can find out for yourself? I don't know about all that. You could be crazy. I am crazy, but you gonna love me. And I'm like, you know what? Time out right there. Ain't no way I'm going out with a nigga who admits to being crazy just out in the open like that. And Camryn says, how about I just meet you at your brother's house one day and we can take it from there. I don't like wasting time and energy. And, he's like, okay, so I'll let Elle know when I'm going to be over there and you two can swing through. Be looking good, too. I'm a man and I'm stimulated by what I see. If you want me, come correct. And, he tells her, I'll let you know when I'm ready for you. In the meantime, cut off all your other niggas so you can prepare yourself for me. I'm possessive as hell. How are you just going to demand that I cut my niggas off? You might not even like me. You might not even be for me. Why you got to go against everything I say? I'm going to have to break you out of that. Just do what I said and let me take care of all the other shit. And he hangs up the phone. And Elle is loving it. She's like, girl, I think you just met your match. And so now we're back in the present. And Elle asks her, so are you going or not? Because if not, Power and I will just get married here or something. Because I'm not doing it without you. And so she finally gets out of her head and says, fine. But if this goes wrong, it's all on you. And she's like, I will take the blame, but let's go. They've been sitting outside for 30 minutes waiting on you. So, they're getting in the car, preparing to go to the airport so they can go to Vegas. And Rula gets out and puts her luggage in the trunk. And she just gets in the car. So he gets in the car, too. And he's like, you're welcome. She's like, for what? I just put your suitcase in the trunk. You welcome. I didn't ask you to. Do you want me to get out and take that shit back out so you can put it back yourself? And he's like, she's like, I don't care. And Elle is like, Cam, please. So she sits back and folds her arms over her chest and mutters a thank you. And Rule's like, I'm sorry. What did you say? I couldn't hear you. And she's like, you heard me. No, I didn't. You over there mumbling and shit. Say it just as loud as you did when you said you didn't care. So she tries to hide a smile, but he turns her head like, what? Is that a smile? And Rule is described as having pecan skin, coffee-colored eyes, naturally thick eyebrows. He has pierced ears and blunt brown lips. And he also has deep dimples and a freckled nose. He sounds so cute. Anyway, and so she slowly reaches over and runs her finger along the curve of his nose and then, fingering his freckles. And then when she realizes what she's doing, she quickly pulls her hands back and sits on her hands. Rule sees Camryn as a challenge. So while she thinks her attitude may be turning him off, he likes it. And so while Power and Elle are off making arrangements for their wedding, Rule invites her out to lunch. And, while he's waiting on her, he's checking his phone and he's caught off guard by the multiple missed calls from his ex, Dana. And, while he's scrolling through his phone, she calls again. So he's like, yeah, what do you want? And she says, I can't believe you actually answered. So it's like, why do you keep calling back to back if you don't think I'm going to pick up the phone? So he's like, me either. What do you want? You. What do you want that you can actually have? I would have hung up the phone right then and there because that crushed my feelings. It's like, bitch, if somebody tell you something like that, that should tell you all you need to know. So you saying I can't have you? Is that not the question he just asked? Like, why are you asking stupid questions? And he's like, that's exactly what I'm saying. But why not? You can't even tell me what I did wrong. It wasn't that deep. We kicked it for what? A couple months? Move on. And she's like, you can't just have sex with me the way you do and spoil me with shopping trips, then just cut me loose. What do I do for a living, Dana? What part of town do I live in? How old am I? What's my last name? Can you tell me one thing about myself? And she's just breathing heavily on the phone. And it's like, yeah, so you showing your true intentions. You just want sex and money. And he's done giving that to you. So, girl, move on. And then she said, so we didn't take the time to get to know each other. We can do that now. I don't want to get to know you now. It was fun while it lasted. Like, let that be that. Camryn comes down in a beautiful red dress, and Rule just can't seem to take his eyes off of her. So she's just like, what are you looking at? And he says, sea lion woman dressed in red, make a man lose his head. And it's a quote from Nina Simone. And he's like, man, what you know about that? She's like, no, what do you know about that? I love Nina Simone. And he's like, so you're into old school? She's like, that's basically the only thing I listen to. So he's like, give me your top 5 artists, her old school artists. And she says, Nina, Al Green, Otis Redding, Sam Cooke, and Ann Peebles. And she's like, what about you? He said, you're not going to believe me if I told you. So his are Nina, Al, Otis, Sam, and Marvin Gaye. So they literally have the same list of people that they love to listen to with exchange for 2. And she's like, man, quit playing. So they just have this conversation back and forth about music. And she tells him, I always wanted to start a vinyl collection. There's a yellow vinyl record player that I've had my eye on, but I haven't purchased it yet. So when he asks her why, she says, I just really don't like to spend money on myself. So your man spoils you then? And it's just like, why is that your go-to? If I just say I don't like spending money on myself, so somebody else has to spend the money on me? Like, no, I just don't like spending money on myself. And when the waiter interrupts the conversation and looks directly at Rule like, what can I get you guys to drink? So Rule is like, you can start with the young lady over there. And when she has to turn her body to look at Camryn, it's different energy, which is just like, you do know you work for tips, right? If you come to somebody's table looking at their partner, you cannot expect to get a good tip. And so anyway, Cam orders a glass of water and she gets a glass of wine. Rule asks her if she can hold her liquor, and when she says yes, he says, then get a bottle of something for both of us. And he's like, you didn't answer my question. What question was that? Does your man spoil you? I don't have one of those. So he asks, you get rid of them niggas like I said? And she's like, I stopped talking to a few, but it wasn't because you told me to. He's like, yeah, I hear you. So when the waiter comes back and it's time for them to order, she tells Rule to order for her. And I just kind of thought that was cute. I always want to go out on a date and have somebody order for me. And he's like, so tell me about yourself. And she's like, I don't like talking about myself. And when he asks why not, she's like, I just don't. Well, you're going to have to come up out of that. And he's surprised because he's like, all the other guys you dated, they don't take the time to get to know you. And she says, that's not it. That's just not something I've really been interested in. I kick it with niggas and date, but I ain't for that relationship and commitment and stuff. And this catches him off guard because he's like, what woman doesn't want love? What woman doesn't want to belong to one man and to be his alone? And so, he's asking her more questions. And she's like, what is this, an interview? And he's like, you can think of it that way. What, you want me to stop talking to you like a gentleman and be a hood nigga? And she's like, no, you're just confusing. I wasn't expecting this from you. What were you expecting? for you to be on some fuck shit, honestly. I figured you would throw me compliments and mediocre conversations to see what you could get out of me. Rule tells her, don't misunderstand. I'm very attracted to you physically, but I'm not one of these standard ass niggas. I'm not concerned with entering you physically until I have thoroughly fucked you mentally. And when Cam hears that, she grabs the bottle of wine and refills her glass. And then she drinks that and then pours another one. He laughs and takes the bottle and says, I want you sober for this. I can't. That was too much. And so he's like, you want to stop? And she shakes her head no and says, I think I might like this. And so he's like, start from the beginning. Tell me about yourself. So her name is Camryn Meadows. Her and Elle are related on her mother's side. Her dad is white and her mom is black. She's 24. She graduated with a double major of education and African American studies, and she teaches, an African American class at a school, and she wants to get her PhD and teach college level courses. And Rule asks if her love for African American studies and culture has something to do with her father being white. And she says, yeah, growing up, I was never black enough. I wasn't black enough for the blacks, and I wasn't white enough for the whites. I used to get teased for my light skin and gray eyes. Elle is light skinned too, so we had to learn how to fight at an early age because we were so hated. Hated because of something we had no control over. And so that's when she started studying her mom's family and tracing her roots and, just wanted to learn more about herself. And this is something where I know some people aren't going to agree or even want to talk about, but this is a real thing too. It's like everybody mentions the good part of being light-skinned, but nobody wants to talk about the other side too. You get it from both sides, and it's just like, oh, are you upset because you're pretty and you're light-skinned and you have quote-unquote good hair and people like you for being light-skinned? It's like, yes, light-skin privilege is a thing. No one is denying that. No one's going to fight that. But it's just like, okay, those same dark-skinned people where it's like, you're never going to understand what it's like to be me, which is facts, and nobody's denying that either. But it's like, you don't then get to take that anger out on me for something that's out of my control. I'm not sitting here downing dark-skinned people or, calling them ugly, nothing like that. It's like, I'm on your side. I'm fighting with you. So why do you then turn around and give me all this hate? And I'm just supposed to sit there and take it because I don't know what it's like to be you. You don't know what it's like to be me either. And yes, there's a privilege above yours, but if I tell you I'm denouncing that privilege and I'm fighting and I'm on your side, why do you then get to talk to me crazy? And I see that so much on social media. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm light-skinned, but I'm also black too. So it's like I do get to have a voice on black issues, and I'm not trying to drown out your voice either. But it's like I see that a lot. It's like as soon as a light-skinned person says, oh, shut up, you're light-skinned, you can't say nothing about black issues. Why not? I'm still black. I'm not trying to drown out your voice. In fact, I'm agreeing with what you said. But because I'm me, I can't say anything. It's so confusing sometimes, and it's like you can't do anything. You literally have to just sit there and shut up, almost as if you're a white person, and just take whatever they throw at you. But anyway, Rule asks if her parents are still living and married. And they're both alive, but they were never married. Her dad couldn't handle the hate that came along with being with a black woman, so he left and married a white woman. And she chuckles at that, but he can see the sadness in her face, and I can just imagine. I would probably never talk to that nigga again. And so he's like, what about your mom? Did she ever marry at all? And she married the first black man to show her some love and attention. He turned out to be married, though, and it's like, wait a minute, how were they able to get married? But he was separated from his wife for the time being, and she didn't even know. So by the time she found out she was in love, her mom played the side chick role before it was cool and acceptable. And it's like, sis, I get what you're trying to say, but being a side chick is never cool or acceptable. I'll say it once and I'll say it again. polygamy is a real thing and I acknowledge it. But if two people agree to be in a monogamous relationship, having sides or outside people is not okay because that's not what you agreed to. If you want that, go be in a poly whatever type of relationship. And so anyway, they got divorced when Camryn was 14 and her mother hasn't remarried since. She says, she taught me how to be a damn good woman. She taught me how to love myself and respect myself, but she didn't teach me how to choose a man, how to submit, respect, and love, and to be loved in a healthy way. I guess that's why I really don't want it now. I don't want to love and trust because I don't want to be hurt and left, rejected. And he tells her, you got to know that her path isn't yours to take. That happened to your mom. You don't know if that's going to happen to you. And you trying to avoid that possibility is just going to leave you alone. And she still stays with her mom. She says she's not leaving until she gets married. And it's like, same. I mean, those aren't my intentions, but basically that's how it is. I'm still at home and I don't plan on leaving until something changes. And he asks her, what do you like to do in your free time? So she likes to listen to music, journaling, dancing, and hanging out with Elle. But that's going to have to change because, with her getting married, Power's going to take her position, basically. And she's pouting, and he thinks that's so cute and asks her, you want me to take up that empty space? And then she says, I would like that. Just don't expect too much from me. I only expect what you offer to give. What if all I have to give is my companionship? That's more than enough for me. So Rule, his last name is Owens. He's 26. His parents are alive and they are married. He graduated with a degree in philosophy and he wanted to go to law school, but he never got around to it. And, philosophy taught him how to understand and analyze situations and go beyond the surface, how to define and interpret situations. But you're a drug supplier, right? Yes. Is that a problem? It's not my place to try to change you. It's a part of my nature to nurture and to try to pull that out of people, but I would never try to change you. That's how you get hurt, falling for the potential of a person who could be or what a situation could be. Then you try to change it or them, expecting something they never offered to give, and you end up disappointed and hurt, and they end up feeling less than. And it's like, whoo, that's a word right there. That's why I love Beloved, because her books, she pulls out those raw emotions. She's very vibey. R.I.P. Q. He hated the vibey girls, but her books are always a vibe. And they're like in touch with their inner peace and very zen. And it's just like, whew, that was a word. But anyway. And this stuns Rule. He's like, so do you really mean that? And she says, I do. And he tells her, I deal with frauds on a daily basis. So if you mean that, I don't give a fuck if you don't want to be in a relationship and love or not. I'm coming after you and we're giving each other both. And she's like, you can't make me be in a relationship with you. And he just laughs her off, basically saying, yes, I can. So Cam and Elle are talking and, just talking about how her quote unquote date went with Rule and how she's feeling. And Camryn says, it's not him loving me that scares me. Then what is it? Him taking it back. And it's like, damn, girl. And that's her hang up with her mom and like what happened to her not once, but twice. And also, I think that's a fear that everybody has. It's like you put yourself out there and you give pieces of yourself to people and you're always afraid that they're going to take it and turn it on you and hurt you in a way. So I completely get it. So Camryn is down at the casino by herself until Rule pops up behind her and tells her, you owe me an apology. And she's like, why? Because you ruined my day. How did I ruin your day? We were having a good time until you got into your head and started overthinking the situation. And she tells him, I'm not apologizing for that. I told you I didn't want to be in a relationship. You don't listen. And so he switches the subject and says, you going to let me take you to a real casino, or are you going to continue to waste your time here? I'm perfectly fine where I am. If you want my company, just say that. I want you. And so, like, woo. Anyway, so she's like, let me get my purse and my phone. And he follows her up to her room and tells her to pack a light bag. And she's like, what? He like, dead ass, pack a bag. And she's like, why? And they're going to a different hotel for the night. And at first, she doesn't want, well, not that she doesn't want to, she just hesitates. And then she says, what happened in Vegas stays in Vegas. So they went to the casino and they're back in the room. And she goes to take a shower and he orders room service. And he steps outside to take a phone call. And then when room service comes, he sees her he steps back in the room and she's sitting on the edge of the bed that has a bench on it, just in her towel. So he tells her, go in the bathroom while he's setting up and then you could come back out. And she was lotioning her feet and he told her, don't put anything else on. I'm going to do that for you. She's like, you're not going to touch my body. So when he goes into the bathroom to check on her, he sniffs the air and says, didn't I tell you don't put no more of that lotion on? And she's like, I thought that was a joke. You didn't think it was no joke. You just hard-headed. Why do you give me such a hard time? I told you I didn't want you touching my body. And he says, why not? I'll be so good to it. I promise. And it's just like, can you imagine that energy? Like somebody giving you that energy that they really want you. And she apologizes. She's like, I'm sorry. I'll be less against you. But I still don't want a relationship. So he's like, man, okay, whatever. And he walks away from her. But she picks up a shirt, one of his shirts, inhales his scent. And then she puts that on and comes back to the table. And so he's looking at her like, why you got my shirt on? Because I like the way you smell. And when I sleep tonight, it'll make me feel like you're holding me. And her honesty, takes him by surprise. But he's like, or I could just hold you and you can experience the real thing. She's like, that's too much. And I told you I wasn't sleeping with you. And he got a suite with just one bed. And she's like, why didn't you get a room with 2 beds? And he lies and says, they didn't have any more. She's like, man, whatever. Bless the food. And so when he says a real prayer, she is once again surprised. And he's like, man, what? What was you expecting? Some God is good, God is great, let's eat. And basically, yes. She's like, you just keep surprising me. And so a lot of his tattoos are scripture tattoos. So she was like, those aren't just for show, huh? And he's like, no, and neither is my brand. He got a cross branded on his chest. And she's like, why? It humbles me. Reminds me of the pain he sustained for me. With the life I live, I could kill or be killed or get locked up any minute. It reminds me to be mindful and aware. Thankful for every breath, every day of freedom. So why choose to do it? Why won't you just leave the streets? Honestly, it's addictive. I love the rush of it. Nothing ever made me feel as alive and fulfilled and powerful as the streets do until I met you. But you throw a nigga such shade, the little bit of rush you give me leaves as soon as you piss me off. And I cracked up at that part, but it also made me think about Paid in Full. I love the game, man. And it's just like, but you see what happened to people in the game all the time. Especially if you got enough money and time, it's just time to get on out. And so the next morning, Rule opens up the door for the bellhop again to roll in the breakfast and the roses that Rule asked him for last night. And the guy didn't even work in the morning, but Rule gave him $100, so he promised to come back and deliver it personally for himself. So I'm like, you're not even on the clock and you delivering? That's dedication. Ain't no way in hell I'd do it, though. And he tries to give Rule his change back, but, Rule's like, keep it. Thank you. And so when Camryn is she gets up to go to the bathroom and does her morning hygiene, when she comes back out, she's going to the table because he told her to get up for breakfast, but he's actually standing by the bed with no shirt on and the bouquet of roses. And, she's almost about to cry because no man has ever given her flowers before. Same, girl. Same. But when he sees how emotional she is, she's like, what's wrong? And she says, nothing's wrong. It's actually right, and that's what scares me. And he asks her, are you going to allow the fear that you keep experiencing? Oh, no, the fear to keep you from experiencing what I'm trying to offer you. And he's like, I'm just trying to love on you and get the same in return. And she asks, promise me that if you begin to lose interest, that you won't cheat. You won't switch up on me. You won't just randomly leave me without giving me closure. And he tells her, none of that's going to happen. And we are not your parents and your stepdad. And she's like, how do you know that that's not going to happen? And he tells her, when I held you last night, I felt like that part of me that I've been missing and searching for had made its way back to me. I felt whole. So letting go of you would be like letting go of myself. And she says, okay, I'll try, but I'm going to need some time. That's all I'm asking for. Why you think I kidnapped you? And, she just finds that so cute. And she's like, thank you for the flowers. I really appreciate it. So Elle is getting dressed in their new hotel room that Camryn has with Rule. And they're having the conversation yet again. And, she's discussing how she's scared to take this any further. But Elle tells her, at least rent his ass out until we get back to Memphis. And she's like, man, I'm not having sex with him. I already know he gonna have me sprung. And Camryn sends Elle like ahead while she talks to her mom on the phone. And, her mom's like, are you having fun? She's like, yeah. And her mom, like, she could see straight through it. She's like, you don't sound like you having fun. So what's wrong? And she tells her, there's this guy. And her mom was like, stop right there. He is not your father. And it's like, dang, girl, how does everybody know your hang-ups? And you're not willing to work on changing that. And she's like, she says, I know, but I can't just ignore what he did to you. To me. What he did to me. Your father is a good man. He's just a weak man. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's like, wait a minute, mama. Yes, it is. I get what you're trying to do, but no. There's something definitely wrong with that. And it's like, it's a shame that your daughter had to see that her father walked out. And it's like, it's not just what he did to you, it's what he did to her too. He walked away from both of y'all and didn't come back. So it's just like, she has a right to feel a little bit jaded. And, Camryn asks, okay, so what about Anthony then? He still messed you over. He messed me over, not you. And it's like, that's not true either. Because if he was your husband, then her stepfather, he walked away from y'all too. So it's like, not once, but twice, we both got left. Not in the same capacity, but we both got left both times. So after the talk she just had with her mom and the conversation she had with Elle from earlier, she decides to throw caution to the wind and give this thing a try with Rule. So, they spend the day together. They went to the museum. They went to a stimulated gun range. They went to exhibits. And, basically just had a good time. And then when they get back to the hotel, Rule goes to take a shower. And Camryn is like dozing off. But his phone keeps vibrating. So, she keeps waking up because she hears it. And so at first she was going to ignore it, but the fact that it keeps going off, she looks down at it and she sees Dana is calling. Now she doesn't know who that is, but it's just like, why does she keep calling? And she sent him a picture. So after that, she's in a foul mood thinking that he's playing games. And so when Rule comes out the shower, he's like, are you in for the night? Or do you want to go get some drinks or something at the casino? So she says, I'm done, meaning it, in more ways than one. So he's like, what's wrong? Nothing. Don't lie to me. I can hear it in your voice. And it's like, damn, just that quick. He already knows your mannerism. So, girl, what's the problem? And he's like, if you don't tell me what's wrong with you and what put you in this dry mood, I'm going to drag you out of this bed and hang you over the railing of the patio. And it's like, damn, you going to do her like business hours is from 9 to 5? That's rude. But anyway, she doesn't say anything. So he grabs her and tosses her over his shoulder. And he takes her to the patio, but she's fighting for her life. Like, okay. And so he's like, talk. But instead of talking, she goes and grabs his phone and like throws it at him. So when he looks at the phone and sees what's going on and what she meant, he's like, really? You tripping because of her? Okay, well, who is she and why does she keep blowing up your phone? So he smiles and is like, come here. She's like, no. Because, that's her biggest fear. Like, nigga, you playing games already. But he's like, have I not been spending every moment with you? So why would I be wasting my time if I wanted somebody else? And she's like, that still don't answer my question. Who is she? My ex. Really? She's not even an ex. We fucked and that's it. I blew a few stacks on her, but we were never committed. And she can't seem to get over the fact that it's over. But I don't want her. I want you. And so he grabs his phone and calls Dana's number. And he tells her, don't be sending me no pictures. Don't send me nothing, period. Don't text, don't call, nothing. And, he tells her, I'm with my lady. And if I don't lost her because of your clingy ass, I'm fucking you up when I get back to Memphis. And so he turns to Camryn and is like, did I lose you? You never had me to lose me. So he hangs up right then and he's like, damn. So you shutting down on me again? Fine. Did I lose my chance to have you? And Camryn is basically pulling back and she's really not engaging with him. And he tells her, if I was fucking with her or anybody else, I'd tell you, but I'm not. I'm trying to bear with you and help you work through this shit, but I'm not going to suffer because of your daddy issues. And it's like, really, nigga? Why would you say that to her? And he's like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Well, I did, but I didn't mean it in a bad way. You do have daddy issues, which she does, but it's just like, you didn't have to say that right then. And he's like, you think a nigga gonna do you wrong and reject you because of what he did, but that ain't me. And, she starts packing up her bag and he's like, for real? You done? You just gonna leave? And he tells her again, I don't want her. I want you. How many times do I have to say that? But for how long? Until we get back to Memphis? Until you get bored with me too? You probably gonna do me the same way you did her. So she says, I gotta go. Where are you going? And she talks about going back to the other hotel, but they checked out because they decided that they were going to do this and try and stay at this hotel. So he's like, you know what? Nah, you stay here and I'll go. She's like, nah, this your room. I don't mind leaving. So, now he done went and got his stuff and she's still trying to walk out the door. He's like, man, it's after midnight. I said you ain't leaving. You cool. Stay in here. And so he walks out the door and she lays on the bed for like a few seconds before she gets up, grabs the key and is about to run out the door, but Rule is right there. And he's like, man, where the hell you think you going with just a t-shirt on? And she was like, I'm coming for you. I don't like, and this is Rule speaking. He says, I don't like leaving shit unsettled and going to sleep mad because that'll just fuck up my day tomorrow. So I'm sorry. And it's just like, how he got to be the bigger person, girl? And she's like, you don't have to apologize. He says, I know, but that's just him being a better person. And she apologizes and says she freaked out. And he says, you know what? It's cool. Going back in the suite. And she's like, you're not coming back? Nah, I think it's best if we just put some space between us. And so she goes back to the room and with every step she takes away from him, it hits her in the chest a little bit. She's feeling a little something. And this is what she was afraid of. And she had no one to blame but herself and her fear. And it's like, yeah, because y'all are going great. Everything is going great. There's nothing wrong with our relationship so far. But you are just fighting it so hard. So, And Oh, I misspoke. So the last time they were just talking, it wasn't time for the wedding yet. This is now the time for the wedding. So, she's supposed to be happy because her cousin is getting married and she's happy for her. She's consumed with regret because she realizes that she messed it up. And she's trying to focus on Elle, and because it's her wedding day, she's like, man, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about why Rule was knocking on our door a little after midnight. And she's like, it's your wedding day and you're worried about my petty drama? Yes. So what happened? And we heading to the airport after the wedding, so it's basically y'all two after this. And she runs down the story and Ella's confused. She's like, so you're mad because of something someone else did, not even what he did? And she's being a little ass kid. She's pouting and mumbling. Like, yeah, it's like, no, speak up. Speak up with that same energy you had just so prepared to leave him. But Elle likes him. She's like, he's perfect for you. A gentleman with a savage ass attitude. And it's like, ain't that what we all want? I know I do. But anyway, Rule, he wants her, but he refuses to break his own heart trying to secure hers. And it's like, I feel that. I really feel that. It's like, I want you. And, I'm trying, but I'm not finna basically kill myself trying to make you happy. I made my intentions clear. And if you're not going to do anything with that, then we could just be done. But, they have a talk once again. And he says, we can kick it until you're ready. But I'm not setting myself up to be hurt. And, he tells her, we're not having sex with each other. I need us to be on the same level emotionally and mentally first. So after Power and Elle leave, they have a conversation and, they're vibing, they're smoking together. But Rule gets a business call and it completely changes his mood. But then, he switched back, like, my fault, don't worry about it. And then they get naked and lay together. He's like, I want us to be naked and unashamed, completely exposed and vulnerable with one another. I want your skin on mine. So it's like they are literally laying there naked on top of each other, just talking. And after a while, she says, tell me about your goals. And this fool, he like, oh shit, we about to have a conversation and I didn't have to force it out of you? Get serious, baby. Oh shit, now I'm baby. And, she's like, for real? And she's about to get up. And I can feel that too, because it's like, if I'm being vulnerable with you now is not the time to joke. It's not. And he's like, I'm just excited. My bad. And as they're talking, they're like rubbing up against each other. He's like, man, I thought I had self-control, but that's fading with you. So I'm going to go. And she's like, what? But you don't have to leave. You can stay here. I want to talk to you. You can't make me open up and then just shut down on me. Which is true. It's like, nigga, you said you want to be open and vulnerable, and here I am. Then you get up and you walk out. It's like, if you thought I shut down on you before, it's curtains after this. But anyway, she literally begs, just talk to me, please. And she tells him, I get why we can't have sex, and I agree with you. I want to explore you in ways I've never experienced with another man before. And he says, man, you really making it worse for me. But anyway, they get back to talking, and his vision for himself is to be financially stable, that by the time he's 30, he can leave the streets and retire. He wants to spend the rest of his days traveling and doing something positive. And to keep his flow of income going, he'll have a few residual streams of income, but nothing that will require more than a couple of hours of my time a week. Something I can be able to sit back and collect checks from, like business investing or real estate. And his goal is to be married with at least one child by then, but he wants 2 total. I love that. I love a man a person with a plan. I love a person with a plan. And she's like, what about school? You talked about law school. Will you go back? And he says he might go to school, like go back to school, but it won't be for law. It'll be to counsel people. And, like he said with the philosophy, he loves analyzing people, their problems and situations, and coming up with solutions, especially for young men, more so young black men. And he says before he dies, he wants to start a nonprofit. And he's like, so, what about you? And by 30, Camryn wants to be done with her, with graduate school and working towards her doctorate. She wants to use her influence and position to help young women love and respect themselves, embrace their femininity and womanhood. And she already has permission to start an after-school program when the school year starts, and she's pretty excited about it. And, that's it for her. He's like, you ain't got no personal goals, no personal vision for your life, marriage, babies. What about a boyfriend? And she's like, no, not really. Is that something that you don't want, period? Because if it's not, there's really no point in me continuing my pursuit of you. And she's like, I wanted that when I was younger. Okay, but what about now, Camryn? Can we just take this slow? I'm trying. And he's like, I'm not trying to rush you, but I'm not going to waste my time either, which is completely understandable. I'm telling you, in a few years, because he's already, 26? So in 4 years, I want to be married. I want to have babies. And it don't have to happen like right at that age, but I'm telling you that this is in my future. I planned for this at some point in my life. And you basically saying you don't want none of that, even though you say that you want to try. It's like, which one is it? What we doing here? And she's like, so I have to tell you now? He's like, nah, but your mind ain't changed at all over these last few days? You mean to tell me you don't have an idea of whether or not that's something that you want? Like in general? And then he's like, you know what? Fuck in general. I'm talking about me. Do you see any of that with me? And her answer is I guess. He's like, man, you know what? All right, we don't have to talk about it anymore. So he's about to get up and leave. And she's like, but I thought you were staying. I thought I was too. But it really ain't no point. That'll just make me get even more attached to your crazy, confused, inconsistent ass. And so now she's sitting at the edge of the bed and telling him, I don't want you to go. I know my roots go deep. I know it's going to take more than a few days to pull up the roots, but I want you to love this shit out of me. And I have no problem doing that. But would you be able to refill me? I'm not trying to be empty, giving all of me to you for nothing in return. Which is like, girl, how can you not see that? You know that that's a problem. I'm not giving everything to you for you to give me absolutely nothing in return. And, and you're not even willing to try. But she says she is. She's willing to try. She just needs some time. I can't change overnight. I would if I could. I've tried. I've tried to be like a normal woman, wanting normal things. I've tried to see myself married with kids. I've tried. But the thought scares the life out of me. Does it? Is loving and losing what's really scaring you? Or is that just an excuse not to try? Didn't you say you were all for helping people reach their full potential? How can you help others reach their full potential and be whole when you're not even doing it yourself? How can you preach being whole when you don't even practice what you preach? That's the problem. I'm trying to give you all of me and a whole love, and you're half a woman. You can't accept, and it's, before I even continue reading, it's like, baby, read me. Read me. Okay. Where was I? I'm so sorry. You can't accept me and what I'm trying to offer you because you're not whole yourself. And you want me to settle for being half loved while giving all of me? How that work? And it's just like, damn. Whew. I love Rule. Anyway, and he's like, I ain't trying to make you fall in love with me. I'm trying to make you rise in love with me. And it's just like, whew. We're getting a little hoteppy here, but let's stay with it. I ain't trying to make you fall and stumble. And he tells her, if you don't hear nothing else I say, hear this. And it's a lot, so y'all just, stick it out with me. Only immature people fall in love. They stumble. They can't stand. They can't manage. They get in a relationship and it consumes them. They lose themselves. They lose themselves because they aren't whole and they don't know how to stand alone. But whole, mature people, they know how to be and stand alone. When a whole person gives love, they give it with no strings attached. They expect nothing in return. They are grateful for the opportunity to do what they've been created to do, love. They feed you with all that they have, and you feed them with all that you have, and because you both are whole, you never end up empty. Because you're transferring love from one another. Whole people help others with their love. They help them to be free. Your father and your stepfather, they weren't whole. They weren't mature in love. Your mother couldn't have been either to allow them to do that to her. And it's just like, whew, baby. That's a hard pill to swallow, but it's true. Now, the whole, fall in love, grow in love, whatever, that's just semantics. But the point is clear. It's just like, they weren't for each other. They weren't ready for love, and they were not whole people because they couldn't pour into each other. And both of those situations, unfortunately, ended the way they did. And, he says immature people who fall in love destroy each other. They take each other's freedom and energy. They feed off of each other, trying to make themselves whole and fill the holes in their heart. But it doesn't work. They just end up stripping that person of their all and tossing them to the side as if they weren't enough. That's what they did to your mother. It's like, see, right back to the mama. So it's just like avoiding love, which this is my favorite part right here. Avoiding love is not how you break that cycle and avoid having to experience what your mother went through. Becoming whole and mature is the only way to avoid that, Cam. That's the only way. And it's just like, didn't I say that earlier? It's like you trying so hard to be by yourself and alone just so you don't repeat the cycle of what happened to your mom. But you basically are, because your mama is alone now and you gonna end up just like her, trying to avoid not being like her. It's like, girl, you're not helping yourself. And he also tells her, you are denying me of what I was created to do by not letting me love you. So you need to make up your mind now. Is this what you want or not? Yes. And you're committed to trying? Yes. So Rule gets another call pertaining to business, and it's even worse than whatever it was before. And you can hear him say, I wanted to take my baby out tomorrow, but we're going to have to cancel that and head back home early. This nigga needs to be stopped now. So Camryn gets out of bed and she start packing. And, from what she can hear, he's being tested. Somebody is messing with his business. So, they about to go home. And he comes back in apologizing, saying that they have to leave. And she's like, no, that's fine. But, I can't lose you. So, but he's like, I got to go handle this. And she's like, well, who's going to be with you? This can't wait until Power gets back. And Rule says that's the problem. They dad ran the business, then he passed it down to them. And, Power got out, so now it's his turn. But he says, these niggas don't see me as nothing but Muhammad's baby boy and Power's little brother. Ever since I took over the business, these niggas have been trying to scoop it from underneath me. And, she gets him to calm down and says, I know you're upset, but if you go in there with guns blazing, you could be walking into a trap. Just wait. Come up with a clear plan of attack, or at least give them enough time to think that you aren't going to do anything about it. And when they're comfortable, smash on their asses. He's like, you know what? That's smart. I needed you for that. You calm me down. And then, he goes into the bathroom and the hotel phone rings. Because, at first it was his cell phone, but they were ignoring it. And then, the hotel room phone rings. And Cam answers, and it's Power. He's like, where Rule at? I need you to keep him from going home until I get there. She's like, that's not necessary. Stay where you are. I calmed him down. He's good. And, Power gets quiet on the phone. And she's like, are you still there? He's like, yeah. But I've never known him to calm down after he gets hyped like that. I was about to fly out and go home to be with him because, ain't no telling what he was going to do. And she's like, no, I got him. You good. Continue your vacation. And after she hangs up, she walks over to Rule and tell him, you will never stand alone as long as you have me. And he's like, with my business shit, yes, I will. And she's like, no, with nothing. I get that you're tough, strong, and you're a man and all that whoop-de-whoop, but I got your back on everything. I heard the hurt in your voice when you were talking about your folks leaving the business. They may have left the business, but they didn't leave you. And he's like, man, I hear you. Thank you. And she's like, but do you really, though? I got you. I promise I do. And they go outside and smoke together. On their last day in Vegas, they conquered Camryn's biggest fear of heights. Not like plane rides or whatever, but literally like being up in the sky, like maybe bungee jumping or skydiving. And that's what they did. They went skydiving and she faced her fear of heights. And, they still haven't had sex, but they did talk about sex. And Camryn says that she's never climaxed before, and she has she got her clit pierced, and that's the reason why she got it, because she wanted to intensify her sexual experiences, or at least that's what she heard, so she got it done. So now they're back home, and they're sitting outside of her house. But while they were out smoking, he tells her, what's going on. So one of his workers, Marcel, tried to throw him under the bus and steal his clientele. So he stole a couple keys out of a delivery he was supposed to make and to one of Rule's highest paying clients. And Marcel told him that Rule skimmed him and that he was starting his own business. So Marcel offered to supply Drake with the same amount of product for half the price. So, Drake just tells him, I'll think about it. And he immediately calls Rule to tell him what Marcel is up to. And so when he couldn't get in touch with Rule, he called Yancey. And Yancey is like Rule's right-hand man. So Yancey was set up to approach Marcel at the trap that Marcel was at. But before he could even get inside the door, he was shot. He was being shot at from all sides. So, he called Power to get in touch with Rule to let him know that not only had Marcel crossed them, but he also has multiple men from their payroll now working with him. So, it's just like shit kind of fucked up right now. And so he gets out the car, to let her out. And they talk about meeting up later. And as he's grabbing her bags from the trunk, he hears a door open. And so they look up and see an older version of Camryn. So her mom's there. And she's like, I was just coming out to water your flowers, but since you're here, you can do it. And Rule's like, flowers? She says, yeah, I have 2 gardens, a flower garden and a vegetable garden. And he's like, so why didn't you tell me this? She's like, I don't know. I told you I don't like talking about myself. And then they get into the difference between a forest and a garden. Like a forest is just things that grow. There's no help from man, no structure. It just grows. But a garden is intentional. Everything is planted for a reason. You know what you want and you plant it. You sow the seeds that you want to reap. So a garden is in your control. It's something that you can nurture and prune and experience to your liking. And, so that's why she started her garden, and she has 2 of them. And she also tells him that she wants to have a big house in the country with lots of farm animals. Very, when I read this, I was thinking about Selena, and I was just like, the same thing. You get tired of city living, and that's basically what it is. She doesn't want to live in the city or have the city life anymore. And he's like, why didn't you tell me this when I asked about your personal goals? That's something that we can make happen. I didn't think it mattered. Everything about you matters, Camryn. And so, she tells him thank you for the trip, for the experience, and, for wanting to make her better and helping her grow. And he's like, you don't have to thank me for that. I'm your man. That's what I'm supposed to do. You're my man? Ain't I? You really want to be? Obviously. So, you're like my boyfriend? Yeah, if that's what you want. It is. Really? Yes, Rule. You're good for me. I want to be good for you too. And he's like, all right, man, let me meet your mama so I can leave before I have you out here in the backseat of this car. So anyway, she's questioning Rule, and Camryn is in disbelief because her mom has never shown interest in any man that she's dated before. And, as they're talking, Rule is completely honest. He tells her about his legal and illegal businesses. And although she doesn't approve of his lifestyle, she understands the reason behind it and can respect the fact that it isn't something he plans to do forever. But she also makes Rule promise to protect and preserve Camryn. And of course he agrees. He wants her forever. So he leaves out promising to come get her later after he is done with his business. And her mom approves. She's like, I like him. He's good for you. He handles you and he deals with your stubbornness and he's patient with you. So, that's a good thing. And her mom also tells her that her dad has been calling for her. They're having a family dinner for his youngest child Sunday, and he wants her to come. And, Camryn ain't really feeling that. She ain't spoke to her dad in months. And when she does speak to him, it's just like two people passing like, hey, hey. And she's never been to the home he shares with his current wife. And if he ever wanted to see Camryn, he came to her. And she's like, man, I'm not going. And her mom was like, why not? Those are your siblings. But it's like, what happened with them. So, I ain't seen them in how long. So what are we talking about here? And her mom was like, why? And she's like, ask Victoria. Before she found out that I was spending as much time with them as I was, I had the perfect relationship with them. But when she found out he let me take them out and stuff, she started tripping. Then the next time I get them, they were all shut down, quiet. They didn't want to do anything. It's like they didn't want to be around me. So I know she said something to them and they're just kids. So I don't want to cause any trouble or make them feel uncomfortable. If she doesn't want them around me, then I'm fine with that. I grew up as an only child. I got Elle and they have each other. And so her mom was like, she said something to you. I can say something to her. I'll put her in check real quick. And I'll tell your father and he can take care of it. And she's like, no, I don't want you to do that. I don't need you to do that. It's like, it's really his wife's problem. And, what are you going to tell him? He just fucks up shit for no reason with his lack of communication. I have no patience for that. So he should have been told her that I was taking care of them while he was out doing whatever. Because, on the days that he was going grocery shopping or had to run errands or had to work or even if he wanted to golf, he had no problem dropping his two younger kids off to their older sister. But anyway. But she calls him. And, but she's nervous to call him because her uncaring and tough exterior is really just a front for her true emotions, which is hurt and pain. And, so when he calls, it's like, hey, how you doing? Whatever. And she's like, so about this dinner, is it your family and your wife's family or just you and the kids? And he's like, my wife and the kids. And she's like, well, I don't want to be around her. I don't want my urbanness to offend her. And he tells her to be mature, but it's like, why do I have to be mature? Because you're a white wife. I'm like, you're white, then you have this white wife, and she tells you that she doesn't want y'all white kids around me because she doesn't want them around urbanness. How do I have to be mature? Tell your fucking wife to stop being racist. And how you just let her get away. And I'm like, see, so you racist too. Tells me you can't deal with the backlash. Like, nigga, grow a set of balls and shut the fuck up. And so she says, why do I have to be mature? She's what, twice my age? And I'm supposed to just let, like, all that slick shit she be talking fly out her mouth? When I was young, I let my mama handle it. But now, I'm telling you, if she disrespect me, I'm on her ass. And he's like, please, she's matured over the years. It's like, that bitch been grown. She should have been matured. And what does maturity have to do with racism? Either she's racist or she's not. So which one is it? And he's like, it was actually her idea to invite you. So it's like, you just going to continue to let her tell you what you going to do with your kids as well. They're both of y'all kids. But okay, whatever. And so he asks her, will you come over and give it a chance, please? And, she accepts. But when she gets off the phone with her dad, she's crying. And her mom comes in and, holds her and consoles her. So when I was going to call this man wrong. When Rule is done with his business, he gets dressed up fly. He goes pick up Camryn. She looking cute. And they're going out for dinner. And, all that good stuff. And some guy, okay, they're standing at the booth, like, waiting for their name to be called for their reservation. And right when Rule's name is called, some guy grabs onto Camryn's hand. And so she turns around, causing Rule to turn around too to see what's going on. And he like moves the guy's hand from off of her and is like, don't touch her when she in my presence. As a matter of fact, don't look at her, don't think about her ever again. And when they get to their table, she's like, are you going to do that to every guy that tried to talk to me? And it's like, but sis, didn't you say you couldn't date old boy at the beginning because he wouldn't say nothing? So now you got a nigga that do say something and it's still a problem? But no, she's just joking. She finds that attractive and that's exactly what she wants. So anyway, she stays over at his house, and the next morning she thinks she hears like animal noises, but she's like, she has to remember that she's at Rule's place. So it might just be her imagination. But anyway, when she gets dressed and go downstairs, she finds out that Rule actually got a traveling petting zoo to come out. And, it's like, you said you wanted a farm one day, right? Well, I figured this could be a taste of what you have to look forward to. So they brought cows, rabbits, pigs, donkeys, horses, ducks, and some shit I ain't never seen before. And, she's just in awe, which I would be too. Because it's like, you literally just told this nigga what you wanted, and he made it happen. Like a preview of what could be. Man. Anyway, and he tells her, usually they go to kids' birthday parties, so there's a cake and ice cream and a t-shirt out there waiting for her. And so he's like, go enjoy yourself. I'm going to get my phone so I can take some pictures and I'll meet you out there. But before he can walk away, she grabs his arm and tells him, you can never leave me. You can't do stuff like this, then leave me. You can't play with my emotions like that. If you're not going to stick around. And he tells her, just accept me and what I'm giving you and enjoy me. Don't think about me leaving because I'm not. I'm here. I'm here for you. She's like, be still, my heart. So Cam returns the favor of also having a surprise in Rule's bedroom, where she placed rose petals all across the floor. And in the middle of the bed, there's like a heart shaped of rose petals, and there's candles and incense burning on his dressers and the tables, and Al Green is flowing through the room. And on his bedside table, she has white chocolate covered fruit and massage oil. So she tells him, go take a shower and I'll be waiting for you. But it's like, he took so long, she actually fell asleep. But when he comes out the shower, he gives her that go. No, I'm just playing. But anyway, they did have sex for the first time. And Sunday is here, and it's time for the dinner. But they're just sitting outside of her dad's house, just sitting in Rule's car. And at some point he says, how long we gonna sit out here? I'm hungry. And I know we're gonna have to go somewhere else to get something else to eat, because I'm pretty sure whatever they serving, I ain't gonna even want it. And it's like so true, especially because it ain't even the fact that it is the fact that they white, and some white people can't cook. And then it's also, you just don't eat everybody cooking. So it's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna sit in here with you, but I'm already hungry, and I know I ain't finna eat this shit that we about to go in here and pretend to eat. So can we wrap this up? But Camryn is scared. And Rule tells her, fear is an emotion. You were created to have dominion over all things. Don't let something intangible give birth to tangible actions. Control your emotions and don't let that shit bring you out of yourself. And she's like, but what if she say something crazy and now I gotta beat her ass? So now it's really a problem. He's like, man, I'm not gonna let you do that. Just calm down. So they get out, they greet her dad, and it's awkward for a second because it's just like he's trying to make small talk and, sir, what do you want? And so Rule introduces himself as her boyfriend, and he's just so happy to meet him because it's just like he ain't never met none of her dudes, really don't know that part of her life. But anyway, so he tells her, come in, make yourselves comfortable, and, she's never been there, so she has to say that, like, which way should I go? I've never been here before. And the big old smile that he has on his face, slides off, and he puts his hands in his pocket because he has to tell her where to go. And it's like, you literally have is she 24? You have a 24-year-old daughter who's never been to your house before. Like, come on, make it make sense. But anyway, she starts walking, but then she stops, like, abruptly, causing Rule to bump into her, and he wraps his arms around her and tells her, don't cry. Because if you cry, you're going to make me cry. And if I cry, I'm fucking everybody up. So it's just like, he made her relax for a little bit. And, excuse me. Later on, Camryn and her dad has a conversation. And she's like, you know what? I don't even care about your wife not liking me. Honestly, I understand why she doesn't. I'm the product of your greatest desire and fascination, my mother. You wanted a black queen and you had her. You just weren't strong enough to stick around. Just like I know that she knows that too. That's why she doesn't like me. And she tells him, I get that you didn't want to be with my mother anymore, but why did you have to leave me too? And what did I say? I'm like, her mama keeps saying he did that to me. It's like, no, he did that to both of y'all. He could have still been a father without being your man, but he didn't do that. He just went on and tried to make another family and basically forget y'all because the mama's all black and then the daughter's half black. And he wasn't ready to be a father then. And it's like, I've read that as being part of a story too many times. I wasn't ready to be your father, so I left and became a father to somebody else. Because it's like, it ain't like you just didn't have any kids and you weren't ready. You went off and made a completely different family. You had your white family and you've just been happy all these years. Like, man, get the fuck out of here. But, because, that's what he told her. I couldn't handle the pressures of being a father, let alone the pressure of being with someone of a different race. So having to hear complaints from both sides of the family, I ran. And he talked about how Camryn's mother was everything to him. And he got with Vicky and just tried to move on. And how he's still in love with her mom. He never wanted to let her go. And it's just like, sir, okay, whatever. But they have this enlightening moment, which, and I don't mean to make it sound like I don't care, but I guess my opinion is pouring out. It's just, I don't care. It's like, I would have cut him off mid-conversation, like, blah, 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 because that's all I hear coming out your mouth. Like, okay, cool. You got your white wife, you got your white kids, you got your perfect white family. We can leave it at that. Ain't no excuses. And you don't get to come back however many years later and decide you want to be my dad now. Like, nigga, no. So anyway, Elle has convinced Camryn to host a self-love workshop to start off her summer dance camp. So, she's talking to the young ladies when she notices a girl who looks almost just like her. And her name is Braille, which I thought, of course, Braille for the blind people to read material, but like as a name, that is so dope. And that's what Camryn says. And she's like, is there a meaning behind this? And Braille's mom told her that the love she and her father shared is blind. So that's why she named her Braille. And I'm just like, man, once again, Beloved, you are fucking brilliant, man. And what does Braille say? Also, her mom is black and her dad is white. So it's just like, man, what the hell? But anyway, the workshop continues. She gives them steps to get to self-love, because even though some of the girls say they love themselves already, a few of the girls were hesitant to say that. So the workshop went really well, and Camryn is keeping her eye on Braille. So she's also supposed to be having like a night out with Elle, but instead, she packs a bag and goes over to Rome's house. She's preparing dinner for them, and he won't allow her inside his bedroom because he has another surprise for her. But she also has a surprise for him. But before they can get to her surprise, like they have a little moment together, and he says, these eyes, you locked me down with these eyes. I need a daughter with these eyes. And she's about to say something, but he interrupts her and they start having sex because he fears she's going to say no. But when they're done, she asks him, you really want me to have your baby? And he won't answer. And she's like, nigga, I'm talking to you. Do you? And he's like, I do, but I know we're taking these things slow while you figure this out. But she says, I love to. And, that catches him off guard. And he's like, why? And she says, I want to experience you, us, on every level. I want to be your friend, your girlfriend, your wife, the mother of your child, your life and purpose partner. I want to be all of that for you. And he's like, damn, I wasn't expecting that. It's like, of course you wanted. You didn't even give me a chance. But see, that goes back to it being Camryn's fault, though. I'm like, he's just so ready for her to shut everything down. Even when he's trying to beat her to it, of saying no first or not even talking about it. But anyway, his surprise is a yellow vinyl with a crate of vinyl records. And she asks him, why are you so thoughtful? You take my thoughts and you turn them into reality, something I can touch and feel and experience. I just like to see you smile. No big deal. And it's like, no, nigga, that is a huge deal. And, he's like, come on, let's get in the shower. And she's like, no, I want to tell you about my surprise first. And he's like, man, come on, let's get in the shower. And she's like, no, just wait. And her surprise is she signed him up for a class on starting a nonprofit. It's a 30-hour class, and they teach you all the basics of how to apply for grants, fundraising, creating your bylaws, everything you need to know and do. So by the time the course is over, he will have completed all of the necessary steps and documents to start his nonprofit. And the class starts in 2 weeks. It's like, wow, y'all are so thoughtful for each other. And so Power and Rule are out having drinks at a club. And Power asks him, how are you going to handle the situation after Rule fills him in on Marcel's scheme? And so, word has been spreading around that Marcel was setting up shop in North Memphis. But, Rule hasn't been able to get in touch with him or see him since he's been back. And he's like, I'm going to end him as soon as I see him. But I need to know who he has working for him. It won't do me any good to get rid of him and then turn around and have to do this all over again with somebody else. And so they're still talking, and Power tells him, you got company. And when he looks to where Power is looking, he sees Dana. So she comes over and tries to squeeze herself in between his legs, but he pushes her back and closes his legs so she can't come close to him. And he's like, I told you I had a lady gone somewhere. Oh, you were serious about that? Dead ass. And so she looks over at Power and says, who's your friend? Power like, I'm married. Back up off me. And so she says, fine, I'll let you go. Can I get a goodbye hug? Give me my closure so I can let you go. And he stands up to and I'm like, what is she getting closure from? Y'all literally had sex, you bought her things, and it's over. There's no closure to give. And I'm like, bitch, I'm not giving you no hug. But anyway, she pulls him in and tells him, don't lose my number. I'm here whenever you want me. So he gives her a hug and, basically tries to move her arms. But she says, hug me like you mean it. And he also tells her, let this be the last time you talk to me when you see me. I'm good with who I'm with, and I mean that. So she laughs and then grabs his face and kisses him. And then you hear Power say, oh shit. So he looks over and he can see Camryn out the corner of his eye. And he warns Dana, like, you better get out of here. And she's like, why? And next thing you know, Camryn has a handful of Dana's hair and she's about to punch her, but she stops her hand and just like basically swings that bitch to the side. And she's like, so that's what we doing now? We kissing bitches like you don't belong to me? And he's like, man, she kissed me. I was telling her I was good where I was at, but she wasn't catching the hint. And obviously your ass wasn't throwing it hard enough. It's like, why are you talking to her? Why are y'all even that close where she can kiss you? And he's like, man, just calm down and let me explain. Nah, fuck that. Fuck you. Fuck that bitch. I should have beat both of y'all asses. I can't believe you got me out here looking like a fool. I trusted you. And Camryn turns to walk away and he's like right on her heels, begging and pleading for her to listen. And he grabs her hand, but she pulls it away. And she's like, man, I don't want to hear that. You promised me that you wouldn't play me. And he's like, he grabs her hand again and she lets him hold it this time. And she's like, that's who been blowing me up all this time. And she calls herself trying to get closure and I wanted to give it to her. But, nothing else happened. And he's like, you can ask Power. That was all her. I am not cheating on you. And Camryn starts crying and he wipes her tears away, saying, I'm sorry you had to see that, but trust me when I say I don't want to have anything to do with her or anyone else. And she's like, man, quit kissing me. We're going to have to wash your lips with soap. And he's like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have even hugged her. Yeah, because that bitch don't deserve closure. Who needs closure from having sex and spending some money? So anyway, he's like, let's go home. I know you mad and all, but that was sexy as hell. And he's like, man, she's like, man, whatever. But what is this? Messed myself up. He's like, man, let another bitch kiss you and both of y'all gonna get fucked up next time. He's like, I believe you. Trust me. I have no need for anyone else as long as I have you. And she's like, why? How? You bring out the man and the God in me. You ever had a nigga tell you you bring out the God in him? I need a woman like that. Even though your ass gave me the hardest time in life, what we have now is chill as hell. You got a nigga re-evaluating life. My goals. Got me thinking about leaving the game earlier than I planned and going back to school. And not because you're forcing it down my throat and nagging me about it, but because you accept me as I am and you're waiting for me to be better on my own. That makes a nigga want to be better. And it's like, true, I get what he's saying. But anyway, so Camryn is leaving the gym and she's heading to get a smoothie when a man sits next to her. And, she looks at him and, he's giving off a bad vibe. And so he's like, you just gonna look and not speak? But it's like, nigga, you sitting next to me and you all up in my grill. Can I help you? But anyway, she says hi and she's grabbing her phone, preparing to stand up and leave. And the guy says, don't move, Camryn. It's like, hold on, nigga, how you know my name? And he tells her, I know your man. And she's like, oh, so what's your name? I'll tell him I ran into you. Marcel. I'm going to give him my message personally, though. And you're going to help me do that. How? You're coming with me. She chuckles and stands up like, nigga, you got me fucked up. And he shows her the gun in his waist and he pulls it out and puts it on his lap and tells her to sit down again. He's like, now we can do this one or two ways, which is she leaves willingly and comes to his warehouse, or he's gonna put a gun to her head and a bullet flying through her mom's because he has someone sitting outside her house right now. So one phone call and her mom is dead. And she's like, I don't know what you got going on with Rue, but my mama got nothing to do with it. He was like, well, it's up to you to make sure she stays alive. So easy or hard? Easy. And he tells her, slide me your phone. And they go outside and get in the car, and he has 3 other men inside the car as well. So he took her phone and he calls Rule. And Rule answers, of course, thinking it's her, like, hey, baby. And Marcel speaks and says, baby is busy right now. I want to talk to you. And so, of course, Rule's like, man, you touch a hair on her head. He's like, cancel your threats. I don't want her. I want you. And I want to make sure I have your attention. So he's like, what do you want? But Marcel, like, he won't talk right now. He's like, I'll call you tonight with further instructions. So Rule is like, man, let her go. She ain't got nothing to do with this. He's like, I just want you to know I mean business, so I'll call you later. And Rule says, fine, but when you see me, you better kill me. And he lets them talk. And Camryn tells him, I want you to remain calm. You don't think straight when you're upset. And it's like, girl, how do you expect me to remain calm knowing that this nigga has you? I'm about to fuck this whole city up. And she's like, please, just relax. I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. I can handle myself. Just remain calm and level-headed. So he promises to get her out of this. And Marcel snatches the phone and ends the call. And so Rule is at Power and Elle's house, mad as shit. He's like, I need Marcel's address, his parents' address. I want family members' addresses. I need the address for the doctor that caught this nigga out of the womb. You talk about holler. Man, I was crying. But anyway, he's like, man, I'm about to lose my cool. I'm trying so hard to remain calm and at ease. But the more time passes... And Elle grabs his hand and pulls him into the living room. And Elle looking at her like, I really don't have time. Like, what is it? And she tells him, there's something that you need to know. So basically, Camryn's stepfather was one of the biggest connects in Memphis before he left. And the reason he left because he became a wanted man. And the only person that knows where he is Cam. And she's his connect now. So she's been funding him while he's been on the run. And nobody expects it to be her because before he left, him and Camryn's mom got a divorce. So she was tired of the cheating and lying. And, he valued money and power above his family and loyalty. And so he's been on the run for 6 years. He reached out to her and put her in contact with his supplier in Miami. So ever since then, Camryn has been the middleman between Anthony and his supplier. The supplier ships the product here to Cam, and Cam distributes it, if I can get my words together, for Anthony. And so when she gets the money, she takes her cut, and then she sends the rest to Anthony. And Rule is like, so who is the supplier? She's like, I just wanted you to know so you can be a little bit more at ease. Cam ain't the average chick. She knows what she's doing, and she needs you to remain focused and think clearly so you can help her. And he's like, so why didn't she tell me all of this? Nobody knows this. And the only reason why Elle knows is because she happened to be with her one weekend when she had to make a drop. And I'm still trying to understand that because I'd have dropped Elle off ass somewhere and been on my merry little way. Like, my business is my business. And so she tells him, we can't have you running around here like a loose cannon. I want her back as bad as you do, but you need to calm down. And you can't go on a killing spree while he has her. You do that when we get her back. He's like, I know she's a strong woman. She's my woman, but she's still just a woman. So, this is my fault and I gotta fix it. And, it's 5 minutes after 9 and Marcel was supposed to call at 9. So he's stressing out even more. He grabs a blunt and go outside. Excuse me. And he's thinking, Camryn is a connect. And that explains why she accepted who he was and isn't trying to change him because she's in the business herself. So, she understands. And then he thinks, has Marcel been using Rule to get to Camryn all along? So then he asks Elle when he goes back inside, what's Anthony's last name? So he does a Google search pulling up his profile on America's Most Wanted. And he's like, I need to talk to him. And she's like, why? But nobody knows how to get in touch with him but Cam. So it's just like, I can't help you out there. You're going to have to talk to him some other type of way. But anyway, Marcel finally calls, and Rule is like, just tell me where you are and what you want. I want your life for hers. And he's like, okay, fine. What's the address? And Marcel gives him the address, or like a street to go down, and tells him he'll give the exact address when he pulls up to where he is. And so the entire time that Camryn has been at the warehouse, Marcel has been trying to force her to know information that she has no idea about. And it's just like, why do you think she knows about Rule's operation? They really just got together. She wouldn't know any of that. But Marcel also tells her, I know that you're Anthony's stepdaughter, and he wants to know if she's his connect. And she's like, she doesn't say anything. She just sits back and ignores the question. He's like, I already know you are. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he tells her, you're my key to killing two birds with one stone. I want Memphis. I want Anthony and Rule's territory. And this pisses Camryn off. She's like, you're going through all of this for some streets and corners? Basic ass nigga. You want to take somebody's territory? Up your product. Get a different grade. Buy them niggas out. You don't fucking kidnap a woman and try to use her as leverage. That's some bitch ass shit. And how do you think you're going to get away with killing Rule? Do you not know who he is? Who his family is? My second in command has strict orders to kill them off one by one should anything happen to me after this switch is complete. I'm tired of the oldness running Memphis. It's time for someone new to take over, and that's going to be me. And so Camryn switches up her strategy and says, wait, is there some way we can work this out? I don't want him to die because of me. Well, that's going to happen regardless. Think smart, Marcel. If you kill Rule, that will have niggas coming at you from all sides. Is that a battle you really want to start? Let me help you get out of this with your life. I do have a plan B. Should I need to execute it? I need 40 keys from you, $100,000, and a clear path out of Memphis. And it's like, nigga, who do you think I am? 40 keys? That's $80,000 in the streets. I don't have that just around my house. And he tells her, if you want to secure Rule's life, those are my terms. How can I trust that you won't come back to Memphis and try to keep me on a leash? I'm a man of my word. And that's supposed to mean something to me. If you want Rule to walk out of here, it should. And so Rule, Power, Yancey, and he has 7 other men with them walk into the warehouse. But the second that Rule lays his eyes on Camryn, he reaches for his gun, but Power stops him. He's like, man, don't shoot. Just stick to the plan. So, he's like, I'm here now. What's going on? And Marcel makes him back up. And at first, Rule wasn't going to do it. But Camryn is like, please, just listen to him so we can get this over with. And she turns to Marcel and says, do we have a deal? And then Marcel looks at her and says, I don't think so. Go kiss your man goodbye. And she's like, why are you not thinking about this clearly? Really think this through. And Rule pulls out his gun and aims it at Marcel, but then multiple guns are cocked simultaneously, and he looks around and sees 5 men that he don't know, plus his own crew. And this is the time where he want to ask her, why didn't you tell me about Anthony? And she's like, can we talk about this later? And he says, there might not be a later. And Camryn looks at Marcel and asks, who is your second in command? And he's like, man, I'm not telling you that. And so Rule grabs her arm and tells her, you need to leave with Power. And she's like, I'm not leaving you here alone. He's like, trust me and do as I say, okay? I love you. And I hate that because it's like, please don't let the first time you tell me you love me be in a situation where we both could possibly die. You should have told me beforehand. But anyway, Power grabs Camryn's arm and she's like, man, let me go. I'm not leaving him here alone. But Power tells her, trust your man. And she nods okay. And the doors open and everyone looks as Diana enters the warehouse. And so Camryn's like, what the fuck's she doing here? Diana, didn't I tell you not to come until I called? And this is Marcel talking. He's like, why do you have she says, why do you have a gun on Rule? You told me he wouldn't be hurt. You told me that she was going to cooperate, and if not, she was going to be the one to die, not Rule. You working for this nigga? And Diana says, I don't work for him. He works for me. I let him hit a couple times. Now his head gone. He was supposed to get Anthony's territory from her and convince her to talk you out of yours and let business be business. And so Diana steps to Marcel and says, what are you doing? What am I doing? No, what are you doing? You were never supposed to have sex with him. You were never supposed to catch feelings for him. You were supposed to play him, get in and out. But since you don't know how to handle your business, I'm going to make sure he's out of the way. Permanently. No, wait. You said you were going to cut that deal with me. 40 keys and 100 stacks in exchange for his life. And this is news to Diana because she's like, wait, you were going to sell me out? Go behind my back and cut a different deal? That wasn't what we agreed upon. So Diana rushes out quickly as she pulls her gun and aims it at Marcel. I knew I shouldn't have trusted you. So Marcel extends his gun and Rule pulls his. Power shoots his and Camryn leaps towards Rule. So Marcel's bullet connects with Camryn's back, but Power bullet connects with Marcel's skull. And so Rule grabs Camryn and pulls her behind a large bend, as the gunfire starts. Diana tries to make a run for it, but Power shoots her in the knees, stopping her. And he tells Rule, you got to call 911. Call 911 and get her an ambulance. And I need to get Diana out of here, to make sure she's straight. We need her. If they have eyes on our folks, like they say, she's more beneficial alive than dead. And Rule is stuck. He's like, she really just took a fucking bullet for me, man. And so, he's trying to keep her eyes open and keep her here with him. And her eyes flutter as she tells him, I love you too. And she can barely speak. But he's like, Camryn, baby, please. And there's no response. He checks her pulse. Her heart is faintly beating. And Rule kisses her once more before laying her body on the floor and going back into the gunfire. So Power crept back in just in time to see Rule walking directly into the barrage of bullets. And he's calling out Rule's name. And that is the end of the first book. And I hope to see you guys back tomorrow for part 2. Peace and blessings, my beautiful people.